So we weren't really sure how all this would be received. As developers, we wanted to keep true to our creative vision, but how would fans and the public respond? Overall, we were pretty pleased with the public reception from industry, media, and customer feedback. Players were happy with the overall direction we took, and we got positive commentary on the atmosphere and the world that we tried to create. So let's go back to the beginning, where it all started. Osaka, 2014. So how do you iterate on the RE franchise? Well, you get two seasoned RE veterans, Jun Takeuchi and Koshi to my left here, who would ultimately act as executive producer, that's Jun Takeuchi, and of course the director here, Koshi. This is when we first discussed the new direction and started early stages in building the team. So Takeuchi delivered his general vision for the title. I mean, how are we going to take the brand forward? The answer? Horror. Yeah. Sure. Could you be a bit more specific? Yeah. So here we have the 4 mandates that he established. Tone along the lines of Evil Dead, first-person perspective to keep players more immersed, and we coupled that with photorealism to give it more of a realistic feeling. And no co-op. He felt that we should keep the experience more personal and thus make it single-player. And finally, references to past characters, etc., should be kept to a minimum or subdued. If you're into horror, then I'm sure you're familiar with Evil Dead. So what did we extrapolate from that film? Well, first off, we wanted to keep the number of characters to a minimum. We settled on about 5 main villains. We knew that we were going up against other AAA blockbuster titles, so we needed to be efficient in our approach in order to keep budgets in check and still maintain a high level of interest and quality. We kept the feeling of confinement by limiting a majority of the game to an old home. This helped us to keep set pieces narrow and feeling semi-claustrophobic. In addition, this all contributed to the way players would approach the game and help capture the mood. You can think of the RE series almost as a series of trilogies. 1 and 3 had fixed cameras and gameplay, and that created a feeling of helplessness or challenge to keep players scared or anxious. 4 through 6 changed focus to third person, and they gave us new types of enemies to match the new direction in gameplay. Now with 7, we wanted to keep the tradition of adapting certain elements and direction to make things feel fresh. 2 major components in this approach were photorealism and first person. As we mentioned, our focus was to be on the player experience, and in this case, one that focused on horror. To accomplish this, we brought the game back to single player and moved away from familiar series characters. In order to concentrate on the horror aspect, we needed to keep the scope of the game somewhat narrow. We didn't want an expansive playing field or to have too much clutter around the single-player experience. The team agreed that we needed to keep away from a focus on the main characters. In other words, we didn't want this to turn into a game driven by the protagonist's story per se, but more so on the player experience itself. So going back to Takeuchi for a moment, he gave us a very simple vision for the project. Make the game scary and fun. Really?
Seriously?
So yeah, something tells me Koshi wasn't quite as cavalier when he heard the news. But he thought to himself, no way, you're going to let me run with just that? But he was certainly up for the challenge. Truth be told, this wasn't something that came about spur of the moment. As a company, we had been throwing around ideas as to where to take the franchise. This came after careful consideration, especially regarding the next phase in the franchise life cycle. Koshi himself had been doing some soul searching. He knew we needed to redefine the brand. And now we had the general direction that we needed to take, and he got now finally the ability to take it there. With that in mind, we had to go over brand identity. What makes Resident Evil Resident Evil? I mean, how do you describe the game to people? For us, it was fun, atmospheric, scary. We needed to make sure, though, that RE differentiated itself from competitors.